Up next, we celebrate the seductive queen of sophisticated pop, a true legend of the 80s and 90s who just hypnotized us with her sensational voice. And we count down her top 5 songs next on Professor of Rock, brought to you by Zenny. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you love the music of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s and more, you're going to want to subscribe so you don't miss out. We're now a daily channel and we got some great stuff coming out. Now, we all have those moments where we hear a singer's voice that stops us dead in our tracks and seems to electrify our senses. For me, it doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to, but I distinctly remember those moments, and I want to talk about one of those today. I remember I was a kid and I was in the sandwich shop in the small town of Blackfoot, Idaho I grew up in. I remember my brother and I had just begged my mom for some quarters so that we could play Q-Bird. So we slammed the quarter into the slots and we're busy jumping around doing our thing. And out of nowhere, I hear this voice coming out of the overhead radio. It was a really crappy radio, but the voice cut through everything. It was this sultry voice that communicated the words, "Diamond Life, Lover Boy." I was completely transfixed by this provocative voice that made me swoon, and it seemed to carry me to a different world. It took me out of that stuffy sandwich shop in the small town and transported me to like this tropical island of seduction. Look, I was 8 years old. I didn't know what Sade was saying, but I knew that I had never heard a human singing voice quite like it. Sade captivated listeners around the world when Epic Records released her astonishing debut album, Diamond Life. She seemed to come out of nowhere. She quickly became one of the most influential singers of the 20th century. Now here's the deal. There are those classic singing voices that just simply raise us to a higher plane. I'm talking about Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, those classic voices. But in addition to the happiness, the joy it brings, Sade's voice has this unique quality that is so hypnotic. It lures you into like this web of romance, seduction, rapture. Her music just makes us flow freely. Sade received little attention as a fashion designer and model before she joined a British band called Pride in the early 80s, as, get this, a backup singer. Now, during the live performance set, Pride allowed Sade to perform a song that she co-wrote called Smooth Operator. And that solo performance stole the show. How could it not? She gradually started to develop a following in the London club scene that led to her landing a record deal. One of the first people in the music business to recognize Sade's immense potential was Pride's manager, a guy named Lee Barrett, who described Sade as an incredible African girl singer when he called producer Robin Miller to tell him about her. Robin was interested in hearing music from Sade, who was still technically a member of Pride at that time, and he received a really rough demo with horrible sound quality, but he heard a certain tone in Sade's vocals that just gripped him. And Miller became obsessed by what he heard. So as I understand it, he woke up his wife and his father in the middle of the night to just gush over what he had just discovered. The effect that Sade's voice had on Robin Miller is exactly how it affects us. Let's face it, the world is smitten by Sade, but the American audience is particularly enamored with her. I mean, over half of her 50 million records sold around the world were sold in the United States, and many of her singles receive heavy airplay in the U.S. on the pop, R&B, adult contemporary, jazz, and even alternative rock stations. She crossed over to so many different genres. Sade's career spans nearly 4 decades, and throughout her career, she's done it her way, without compromising her artistic integrity. She writes as beautifully as she sings. She is the primary lyricist on virtually every song that she has recorded. To those who know her music really well, Sade has a long repertoire of amazing songs. But to those who are not familiar with her, I strongly encourage you to immerse yourself in the majesty of her music. It'll change your life. It's no wonder that Diamond Life is included in the reference book, 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. It's just one of those things. All of her records are like that. I contend that you should hear Sade's entire catalog before you shuffle off this mortal coil. So here is my Sade fiver. Now I've included them in a playlist below so that you can listen. Number 5, Paradise. This is just a funky percussion-driven song from the 1988 album Stronger Than Pride. Paradise was a #1 R&B song in America and a #1 AC adult contemporary hit in Canada. It's one of the sexiest up-tempo songs I've ever heard. Number 4, No Ordinary Love from Love Deluxe. I have such a deep appreciation for this song because it's mostly just Sade doing her cool, sexy thing with a minimal arrangement. But I love that mysterious guitar solo halfway through the song. It's really an unorthodox move, but it really adds to the mood of the song. Now, Sade won a Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals for the song in 1994. Number 3, The Sweetest Taboo. You know, there's a video on YouTube where Sade sings this live on TV, and it's just simply a masterclass in singing. She exudes straight perfection, and she does it so effortlessly. The only human being that I've seen that can exude so much cool, so much sex appeal, such joyous communication, so adroitly, so expertly, is Frank Sinatra. The song went to the top 5 in early 1986 in the US and hit #1 on the AC charts. The thing that's always perplexed me about this near-perfect pop song is when Sade sings, "Sometimes I think you're just too good for me." Huh? How could anyone be too good for Sade? Not buying it. Number 2, from 1985, Is It a Crime? The lead track from Sade's second album, Promise. On this song, Sade gives us an arrestingly torchy vocal that starts off with like this subtle vulnerability and grows into a pleading revelation of burning desire over a brilliant arrangement with world-class musicianship. Like most of my favorite Sade tracks, Is It a Crime is unconventionally long in length, and nearly 6 minutes and 30 seconds, but it's so haunting, you wish it would never end. Number 1, Smooth Operator. It's easy to call this her signature song, but of course the reason why I chose it for my #1 pick is because it's the song that started my infatuation with Sade and her music. I swear I melt every time I hear her sing that lyric, "No Need to Ask." With an incomparable sultriness, Smooth Operator is also one of the best demonstrations of how uber talented the musicians are that comprised Sade's band. That's a big part of what makes the appeal of Sade's music so transcendent. I mean, the sax solo by Stuart Matthewman on Smooth Operator it's arguably one of the all-time greatest sax solos of all time. When you think of the 80s and the saxophone, it's this song and Careless Whisper by Wham that you think of. Now make sure you only listen to the album version of Smooth Operator. This has always annoyed me. Now, since the single version for radio shamefully edits the solo, the sax solo, it's a crime that I believe whoever was the perpetrator should serve actual time. So that's my Sade fiver. What's yours? Leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on Sade and her incredible body of work. And if you like what you see here and are as passionate about music as I am, subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.